Hey guys, kinggath here with another patch for Sim Settlements 2. This is patch 2.2.3, which I'm calling W.F.H.Q Radio. And that is because this patch is addressing as many things as I could find regarding the HQ radio that I could fix or improve in some way. So we've got some new quality of life improvements to it, fixed a lot of bugs, and we'll talk about those in detail in a little bit here. We also got to discuss the new workshop framework patch 2.3.0, which came out today, and a new little mod you can download which patches SS2 to make it work better with Far Harbor and Nuka World. So we'll talk about all of that in a minute, because of course we got to start out by thanking some patrons. You guys are amazing. You make sure we don't have to dig into our pockets to cover expenses which come up for the server or developing the mod. So let's give a shout out to a few of you, and if I missed you today, I will get to you in an upcoming video. Huge shout out and thanks to Lycus Gaming 2552, Greg Fortune, Bagel Boy, Jason Galloway, Dirge of Hubris, and Angela McCartney. Oh my god, I think I had a zero flub day on the reading of the names. Although one of them's gonna send me a message telling me that I pronounced it incorrectly. Maybe it's Bagel Boy. I don't know. I feel like I had to have screwed up something there. All right, let's get into the patch notes. So first up, make sure you download patch 2.3.0 of Workshop Framework. It is required by this update to SS2. And the reason we upped the second number on Workshop Framework is because this is a little more significant patch than usual. And the new big thing that it adds is what we call Workshop Persistence. And basically what this is going to do is take all of the little resource objects involved in your settlement. So that'll be your power generators, your food producers, your water producers, all those little things. And we make sure that those don't get dropped out of memory when you leave the cell of your settlement, and that should do a couple of things. One, it should make it far less likely that you get the 4294 bug in your Pip-Boy. Now, we did find a second cause of that is engine level that I'm going to tell you guys about, which is if you have unassigned items. So if you have like say an unassigned set of crops or an unassigned defense plot or something like that, those unassigned resources will actually cause the 4294 bug we found out. Now, we are looking into a potential solution to that we could do with scripting, but know that if you still have it after this patch, it could be related to that. We're also hopeful that this issue, or this persistence manager rather, will solve issues with the power grid. So a lot of folks have been dealing with power grid corruptions, and we have a lot of tools to help with that, and the more we can put in, the better, because the power grid corruption is just a day ruiner. And overall, it should improve the stability of your numbers to have your workshop items persisted. It should make it so that if you have things like All Settlements Extended installed, or the Annex the Commonwealth mod, any of those types of things that make your settlements bigger, it should help with those so that your resources are more stable. So this is a system I'm really excited about. It should result in minimal memory increase of your game, because most people's systems can handle the load. We did do a lot of testing with it, and most people, even on low-end systems, low end as in the bottom of the system specs for Fallout, did not report any issues with this over the past couple of weeks. So I'm very excited to roll this out to all of you, including Xbox players. I'm very excited to see if this improves the game for you. Now, I will say, if you want to take full advantage of it, it will be best taken advantage of in a fresh new game. But another thing you could do is slowly, and I'm going to emphasize slowly, visit all of your settlements after this patch, and that would be maybe show up at one, kind of do the rounds on it, hang out there for a while, and like 10-15 minutes, and just do that one settlement at a time, and that will allow the persistence system to kind of gather up everything and figure out how it needs to handle all that stuff. So don't rush it, because if you bounce between settlement to settlement, you'll just trigger massive script lag, and that will not help the situation at all. You don't have to do it really. It'll kind of happen in the background as you visit your settlements, and then as you proceed through the game, it should just make your workshop systems and numbers a little more stable. Okay, next up, let's talk about that DLC Settler patch. It's called SS2 DLC Settler patch, and it is available on Bethesda for Xbox and PC, and on Nexus as an optional file on the SS2 page. And this file will require the DLCs Far Harbor and Nuka World to install. I'm assuming most of you have both of those at this point, so you'll probably want to grab this patch. And it solves a few random issues that come up with both the Nuka World Raider settlers and the Far Harbor settlers, because they used a special, what's called a location reference type, and basically it flagged them different than all the vanilla settlers. So all of our systems that were fetching things based on the ref type of vanilla settlers would fail to grab those NPCs, and it could result in some weird things. One of the most easily noticed problems in this would be the town meeting gavel would not summon those types of settlers. So this will resolve that, and probably solve several other unrelated things that I hadn't even excuse me, hiccups, that would have caused problems with those particular NPCs. So grab that patch, pretty much one everybody will want. And in theory, we should never have to download another version of it again, but I'm sure I'll note if you ever have to download an update to it. Okay, now let's talk about the new options. So HQ Radio has been a thorn in a lot of folks' sides since the launch of Chapter 2. It's the system where some of our characters will contact you directly and kind of lock you out of your controls for a second and then start an NPC conversation with your Pip-Boy. Now, in theory, this is great because it makes it so that you don't have to run back to an NPC, talk to them, to get a new objective to just come back out into the world again, but in practice it was causing some glitches, things like people feeling like they were completely stuck and they couldn't get out of the conversation, and then they would basically have to just find ways to dodge that part of the quest line or force it to complete. All sorts of hacky stuff people were going to have to do. So in the last patch, in 2.2.2, we changed the radio to allow it to work in first person, which helped with a lot of those issues. But since then, we've discovered more bugs, and we've fixed all of them that we could find. So if you found yourself getting stuck in the conversation, unable to exit, you should have that resolved as soon as you load up with this new patch. And for those of you who just find the HQ radio system a little too intrusive, we've got two new options for you. So I'm going to show you in MCM, but these are available in the holotape as well. So if you go into the mod config menu or into your holotape for the City Manager holotape for SS2, under gameplay and go down to HQ, you'll find two new options that start with HQ radio. The HQ radio auto contact. So if you turn that off, rather than our NPCs during our quests starting a conversation with you through your radio, instead you'll hear a tiny little, kind of like the sound of you turning on your Pip-Boy radio. It's just a little click and some static, and then you'll see a notification in the top left telling you one of the NPCs, Jake or Lupe or so-and-so, is looking to contact you, and then you can activate the HQ radio aid item in your inventory and select them to start the scene when you're ready. The other thing you can change is the HQ radio disables some controls. You can turn that off if you want to maintain your freedom of movement. Now, the reason that we disable the controls is because when the HQ radio system is actually happening, the way it works under the hood is that we spawn an invisible NPC called Pip-Boy Radio right in front of you. And so if you keep moving, you will not be close enough to activate during the conversation. So if you disable that option to have it disable some controls, make sure as soon as you sense one of those conversations starting, you'll be able to tell because there'll be a little sound that plays, a similar one that I talked about where it's kind of that click and then some static, and your camera will point at something. That's a sign that the HQ radio started. You should stop moving and let it finish. Or if for some reason you kept going, the conversation gets broken, you can always reboot those quest conversations by activating the HQ radio in your inventory. So either way, you should be fine if you want to turn that option off. But just so you know, you do need to stay kind of where it started. Otherwise, the system kind of fails. All right, so those are the new HQ radio options. I also have one other option I'm going to show you in here. I don't know why I exited the menu. I knew I had a third option to show you. There is a new respect build limit setting. So I found that a lot of folks are finding the respect build limits thing to be a surprise. They think the game is bugged, and we get tons of bug reports on this because they don't think to pop into workshop mode and check their build limit. They just see, hey, plots aren't building. So what I've done is I've changed the respect build limit system. So now it is separated between your city plans and your plots. They're now two different settings. And of course, I can't remember where it is. It might be under performance, actually. Let's go down here. Yeah, here we go. So we've got two respect build limit options now. Now the city plans one will remain on by default, and the plots one is off by default now. So the city plans on, I think it's more likely folks are going to run into problems with the city plans building past the build limit than plots, because with city plans you just get massive tons of new items plus new plots. So that is going to by default not build more stuff if you're at the build limit. That way you have to approve the increase to the build limit so that you are saying, I'm okay with it, I know my system can handle it. Because some of you guys on maybe lower end systems or original Xbox are not going to want to let those city plans upgrade, whereas plots you should mostly be okay on any system, because if once you build the plot, you're generally going to expect it to build. But be aware that if you want to, or if you're having performance issues rather, you can go and turn that option back on for plots as well if you want to limit yourself so you don't overwhelm your game. So I just want to make sure everybody saw that. And since we're talking about increasing the build limit, just I'm going to show this one more time so everybody knows where it is. If you go to your workshop, there's a manage option there. You can configure build limits. This is part of workshop framework. You don't need any third-party mods to increase your build limit. And as soon as you increase that, and wait or sleep a day, it should trigger all of your city plans to go forward, or your plots to go forward if you had those respect build limits on before and you just increased your build limit past the max. Generally, also, if your city plan was ready to upgrade and you were just at the build limit, you could also trigger it immediately by coming to this menu. You should see a upgrade city plan option, or force city plan, something along those lines. You should see an option to upgrade the city plan if it was ready and all that was holding it back was you were at the build limit. Okay, now some other little notes that I think are worth mentioning. We had a huge outfit overhaul for this, and that's thanks to Beebs Calicor, our kind of outfit tech on the team, who handles all of the little ins and outs of making sure the outfits are functional. She went through and made sure that things like VATs are working correctly, like that they have the appropriate associations so you can put mods on them and things, and also, for Xbox players, we finished the swap of most of our NPCs to use vanilla outfits for you guys. So that should recover about 70 or 80 megs of space on Xbox. Now, you might be thinking immediately that you should go download a few more mods, but I will say, and please do, but be wary that the reason we're doing this, and the reason we're going to start cutting little kind of side content in SS2 on Xbox, is because we're trying to make room for Chapter 3. Our goal is to cut about 500 megs total between Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 on Xbox, and we're doing that in a way that shouldn't affect PC players, and we're doing it in a way that will not cause your game to fail to load. So we're getting very clever with how we're setting up these forms to avoid you having a crashy game after we remove those. So those NPCs that you had should just silently swap over to these vanilla outfits. Now, there's a chance that we missed a file or we failed to copy a file correctly, and then what you might see, not crashing, but you might see an NPC that has an invisible body, or they just look naked. And if you run into that, please report it on the simsettlements.com forums, or if you catch it right away, you could probably reply to this video with it and I'll probably see it. I don't tend to catch every single comment on these videos forever, but usually in the first couple of days I read through them all. So if you happen to catch one right away, please post it and I will make sure that that gets taken care of in the next update. But overall, you should see on PC, you should see the outfits be improved, and on Xbox you should see some space recovered and a lot of our NPCs go to vanilla outfits. Otherwise, the other thing I wanted to mention was I fixed a lot of resource bugs. Any of you who've watched my live stream, you know that we've struggled forever with our organic materials being absurdly high. It didn't make any sense. Finally figured out what it was. It was related to playing in category mode, which is what most of you are in. So that's when, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, on the panel on the right of your resources, if you have what I have, you're playing in category mode. And so any of you playing in category mode who used HQ, you would have run into this bug. Your resources would have slowly gotten out of sync. You can see my organic materials are still way over, and that's just because I haven't finished spending them. But the bug is fixed that causes them to hyperinflate when you play in HQ. So most of you should see that your resources will start to stabilize now after this. And we fixed a few other unrelated resource bugs. In general, we spent a lot of time trying to get our numbers stable across the board. That's some of the workshop framework stuff. Some of that changes to help with that. A lot of the code fixes. We're trying to stabilize all these numbers because we're working on the Chapter 3 expansion with fervor, and we've got a lot of new mechanics coming, and we want to make sure that all the existing mechanics are stable before we start piling those on. So on that note, let's talk about next patch. So for patch 2.2.4, we're going to do something a little different. So I posted a message on Patreon to my patrons a couple of weeks back, asking any of them who are interested to sit down with me for an hour and discuss some of their thoughts on Sim Settlements 2. The goal was to find out what their experience was with it, what kind of pain points they ran into, or ideas they had for quality of life improvements, and they gave me a bunch of great ideas. And then I compared that with a list of ideas that I wanted to do anyway, and I've come up with a little poll that you will find linked below in the description, or I might have commented it as the top comment and pinned it. And I would love if you guys would go to that poll. And basically what you guys are going to do as a community is decide what my primary focus is for the next patch. So these are kind of meatier things I'm going to do, whether they be quality of life things or redesigning some part of SS2 in a small way to to make something run a little smoother, and I'm going to focus on what you guys want. So I like to have something besides just bug fixes to put in every one of my patches, and I thought it'd be fun to see what the community is interested in, what you guys want to see me focus on, where are the pain points to you, and hopefully if this plays well, if you guys enjoy being able to vote on this and I'm able to deliver on it, I would love to do this again, as we as most of my focus right now is on chapter 3 stuff, but I still want to get out patches that are helpful to you guys, so it'd be nice if you guys kind of direct me in that direction. So I'll keep doing bug fixes, but as far as like content stuff, quality of life stuff, I'm gonna let you guys kind of direct me for the next few patches, I hope. All right, and then of course, the last thing in the patch video is always the giveaway. So if you made it this far, you know the routine. I'm going to give you a hashtag to include with a comment if you are interested in getting some SS2 merch. So make sure the comment is more than just this hashtag. You can tell me a bug report, tell me a funny story, give me a high five in there, but something in some sort of interesting to read blurb. I would like to actually read through all the comments in the first couple of days, looking for these hashtags, and be like if they're interesting. So drop a comment below if you're interested in some merch, and make sure you include a way for me to contact you, preferably on something like Nexus mods or simsettlements.com, or even Twitter would work, and I will pick one of you who do so in the next couple of days, and I will send you a gift card to get some free merch from our little shop. All right, guys, take care and enjoy the mods.